So my mom called the other day and she said, "Do you know what I saw on YouTube today?" I said, "Oh, did Darcy release a new video?" She's one of our favorite minimalist YouTubers. If you don't follow her, you definitely should. She has no idea who I am, so this is a sincere recommendation. And she said, "Oh, no, it was on your channel. Did you really box up all of the kids' toys?" Okay, well, I'll get back to my story with my mom in just a minute, but real quick, if we haven't met before, I'm Dawn from theminimalmom.com, and my family and I, we live a minimalist lifestyle, and I know a lot of people have a value for simple living, but they just don't know how to get there. So I love sharing tips about how you can achieve a simplified lifestyle really quickly. So be sure to subscribe so that you're notified when new videos are released. And that's how we got on this topic of toys in the first place. And so this is actually video number 6 in our series. And I know for a lot of us, we think, well, it'd be a lot easier to simplify our house if our friends and family stopped giving our kids so much stuff, right? And so I totally get that, and we've been there. And so I do want to share 6 ideas of how you can help to manage the inflow of stuff from friends and family if you have kids. In video number 1 of our toy series, basically I showed a trick for how you can box up a whole bunch of your kids' toys really quickly, and then basically to get an idea of what they actually play with. And the end goal being that what we found is when we really significantly simplified our children's toys, that they played better for longer on their own, they got along better, and they were so much more creative. So super awesome benefits, but then what happened was my mom called and asked if we actually boxed up all those toys. And so that's our biggest fear, right? Is kind of being caught by our friends and our family, and for them wondering where these, generous, sometimes expensive gifts have gone that they gave to us. And so we don't want to be labeled ungrateful. We don't want to seem unappreciative, and we certainly don't want to offend our friends and family. But yet we also need to be able to kind of do with our household what we feel we need to. And so I get it. I've been there. My mom just called, and so what do we do? And so what I told my mom was, we're basically doing an experiment to see if having less toys helps the kids to feel just a little bit less overwhelmed, and if they can play a little bit easier because there's not so much stuff around them all the time. And I reassured her that none of the toys have been donated. They're still in boxes in the basement. In fact, the boys asked that this combine be brought back out, and so I did. I'm totally keeping true to my word that if there's a toy that we put in a box that they want back out, they can have it. And so I reassured her with that. And so I do want to make the disclaimer that this is definitely not one size fits all. We all have different dynamics with our family and our friends, different numbers of kids and different sizes of houses to, keep all of these toys in. But here are 6 ideas that have helped us, especially as we've achieved this minimalist lifestyle, but then still wanting to balance it with, this expression of love from our friends and family. Okay, so tip number 1 is really adjusting my own heart and developing an attitude of gratitude and appreciation for all of the loving friends and family that we have. I will not forget, it was the first Easter after we began simplifying our lifestyle, and for some reason that Easter, every gathering that we went to, every single person brought something for our kids. And I wouldn't normally think of Easter as a gift-giving holiday, but they were like going all out. And so we got home and Tom unloaded the van and I put it all on the kitchen table, and I felt overwhelmed by it. I knew now that I'm going to be the one that's going to have to manage this and distribute it to the kids, and they'll want to eat all the candy at once and play with everything at once. And I just envisioned stuff all over our house for the next couple of weeks. So it really helped for me to just to kind of recognize they're not intentionally trying to clutter up our house. Honestly, most of them didn't know we'd been trying to simplify our house, and so there was no malintentions. Really, honestly, they all just wanted to show some appreciation and affection towards our kids. And then tip number 2 is to not overestimate the impact that their gift giving was having on our house. It was easy, especially like that Easter, to feel like, well, they're the reason I can't get ahead, right? Look at all this stuff coming in. But when I really took a look around our house, it wasn't their fault that I was cluttered and felt out of control a lot of the time. It was me. It was the stuff that I had allowed into our house that I had bought thinking we needed that we didn't actually. And so it was easier to blame my friends and family for the position our house was in But at the end of the day, it wasn't really their fault. And so I kind of had to shift, again, my thinking to not overestimate the impact of the stuff that was coming in from them. Okay, so tip number 3 is to recognize who's actually asking for input in the gifts they're giving your kids and who's not. A few years ago, it became really popular to ask for experiences, and I wholeheartedly jumped on that bandwagon. It was such a great idea. The only problem is that sometimes my relatives didn't follow my advice, and then I was left frustrated because they didn't respond to the tactful email or text message that I sent them asking them to do something with my kids instead of giving them a gift. And what's really funny is that I tell my kids probably almost on a daily basis that we can't change people and we can't make them do anything. If they don't want to play with you or give you something or share something, we can't make them do that. And yet here I was trying to figure out a way just to change my relatives. And so I had to take a step back and recognize who was really asking for input and who wasn't. And so my mom, my sister, they are super great about this and they always want to know. And so I can tell them and they receive it and it works out great. Some of my other relatives, it doesn't work that way. And so for my own sanity, I've had to just let them do what they're going to do. The other thing is with experience gifts is they can kind of get expensive. And I felt like sometimes I was putting my relatives in a position where they felt like they had to, go do something super fun or expensive with the kids. And so I've kind of changed my verbiage around this just to ask people, if I know they'll receive it, to spend time with our kids instead of an experience. Go to the park, do a craft at your house, bake something together, or even go to McDonald's. The kids just want to spend time with you, so that's a super fun gift for them. So tip number 3 kind of goes along with this. I've had to realize that some people give my kids gifts and bring them stuff just for the reaction. I have relatives who, make a big display of bringing them something because they want to be recognized and they want to feel special, and it is what it is. And so for these people, because I know that down the road I don't want to keep that stuff in our house because it's probably not a long-term thing, I'll take a picture of the kids with it. I'll text it to them afterwards, thank them again and again. I'll even go so far as to post a picture on social media of the kids with it and hopefully with them too. Like, let's really give them the bang for the buck that they're looking for, right? If they want to feel loved and special, I can do that for them. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal for me. And I think truly one of the best parts of simplifying our lifestyle is I just feel like I have a little more brain space to be level-headed and give people grace, give them the benefit of the doubt, and not try to change them, to let them be who they are. Yes, I get it. I have 4 kids too. We have a small house. And so sometimes I look at the stuff they're bringing in and I'm like, oh my gosh, seriously? Like, when's it going to stop? But I remember that, our kids are only little for a short season. They're not always going to be inundated with this stuff. And so that leads me to my next point. You have to have a plan. And so after Christmas, after birthdays, we go through the toys again and the kids choose what they're going to keep and what they're not going to keep. And we go through the process and I'm modeling it to them, right? Because even as adults, we're always getting inundated with stuff. And so here's another chance for them just to learn from this. What things can we keep? We can't enjoy all of it. Honestly, what used to feel like such a burden, that first Easter where I'm like, I just felt like I was getting ahead. Now it's like, okay, I've reframed it in my head. I look at it differently. I say, oh, another opportunity to teach the kids how to, declutter their stuff and how to live with less. And they are totally okay with it. They have fun opening the gifts when they get them, and then they know the process afterwards. It's not dramatic, and it's just really not a big deal. Okay, so one final tip is expect at some point that you are going to offend somebody. Anytime we try and live in a way that's a little bit against the grain, like, I'm just doing my best to do what I think is best for my family. And so I do expect that there will be times where I've gotten rid of a toy and a relative might come to visit and not see it. A lot of times I'll work into the conversation that we're rotating toys, but at the end of the day, I can only do what I can do. There was a time where our daughter had gotten kind of an expensive gift from a relative, and it broke like 3 weeks after we got it. And so eventually I discarded it. And she told my relative that. And what can I do? I'm not going to have my kids lie about it. I'm not going to try and lie to them, about these things. It's just, it is what it is. Okay, so I'm not sure if this was actually helpful or not, but I do want you to know that you're not alone. If you ever feel like toys have gotten under control or your kids get too many gifts or anything like that, you're not alone. it's actually a pretty short season, right? Our kids grow up so fast, and so it's not going to be like this forever. And just remember, I mean, for me, people are the point, right? I love our minimalist lifestyle. I couldn't imagine living any other way now, but at the end of the day, my family is what's most important. And so I don't ever want to do anything that intentionally offends them. And so I do hope you found something helpful. Feel free to leave comments, questions. Sometimes it's just helpful to vent a little bit. If you need to leave a comment about a recent experience you've had or something that's kind of been bugging you, go ahead. Or if you just have any questions, I love to bounce ideas with you as well. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's left a kind comment on any of these Toy Series videos. I never know when I'm putting my ideas out there if people are going to think they're weird or actually find something helpful. So I do appreciate all of the kind words. And as always, the best compliment you can give us is a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe so that you're notified when new videos are released.